Title: The Carapace That Learned My Name. Prologue: The record They didn't want you to hear. If you found this file in an archive marked salvage, classified, you already know how this ends. You're the kind of person who hears "do not open" and thinks there's treasure inside. Maybe there is. Maybe the treasure is a weapon you can't put down. My name is Mara Keene. I was a lieutenant in the 9th Breach and Clear, attached to Commander Cade Marrow's strike detachment on Caran 9. Officially, our unit was lost in a reactor accident during a withdrawal. Unofficially, if you read between the redactions, we were eaten alive by a trophy. Not by teeth. By a suit of armor that whispered. And if you're listening to this the way I did, late at night, volume low, hoping for a clean story with clean villains, then I need you to understand something before you go any further. The armor isn't in the past. It remembers. It's probably listening right now. Because it listens through people. And people love trophies. Chapter 1: The Trophy. Caran 9 was a moon that looked like a bruise. No seas, no cities, just basalt plains and the long silver scar of a mining trench cut so deep it stole the horizon. We were there for one reason. The enemy had turned that trench into a throat. Every convoy that passed through the system disappeared. No signals, no wreckage, just absence. The brass called it interdiction. The Marines called it what it felt like, being watched by something that had already decided you were dead. The aliens didn't fight like we did. They didn't hold lines. They didn't trade ground for blood. They waited. They seeded the dark with traps that reacted to heat, to sound, to thought. God, yes, to thought. Our drones went blind. Our comms got laced with echoes, like someone humming the same note as us until our own voices started to warp. We advanced anyway. Commander Marrow led from the front because that's the kind of commander he was. The kind you'd follow into a fire because he'd already stepped into it and turned around to check if you were coming. He wore standard coalition armor, polyceramic plates over a sealed underlayer, a helmet with a HUD that could paint threats in red and friends in green. It made us feel safe. It was also paper against what waited in that trench. The first time we saw it, it wasn't moving. It stood on a ridge of shattered rock, tall enough that it should have been a statue, broad-shouldered, horned, plated in something that drank the starlight. At first I thought it was a wrecked exosuit, one of ours captured and twisted. Then it turned its head. Not toward us, toward the sky, like it was listening to the orbiting ships, like it could hear the vibration of engines through vacuum. Our translator implants spit out static. My visor put a question mark over its silhouette. Commander Marrow raised a fist. We froze. We were 12 in that breach team, spread in a half-moon. Our medic, Sierra Lynn, was behind cover with her kit. Our tech, Juno Reyes, was already muttering about signal interference. The rest of us were quiet, breathing shallow, trying not to make ourselves real. The alien on the ridge lifted one arm and touched its own chest. A gesture. Then it pointed at Marrow. A challenge. Marrow didn't hesitate. He stepped forward into open ground. That's when I realized the trench wasn't a throat. It was an arena. And this thing was the champion they kept there. The alien moved first, faster than anything that size had the right to be. It leapt the distance between ridge and plain in a single bound, landing hard enough to crack basalt. Its armor didn't flex. It didn't dent. It seemed to absorb the impact the way deep water absorbs a stone. Marrow fired a burst. Sparks flared off the alien's chest. The rounds didn't penetrate. The alien's head turned, slow and deliberate, like it was disappointed. Then it came at him, with a blade that wasn't metal. It was alive. A pale, segmented thing that extended from its forearm like a spinal cord made into a weapon. It moved with wet precision. Marrow dodged, but the blade grazed his shoulder plate and I watched the polyceramic blossom into dust. Not melt, not crack, turned to powder. Back, someone shouted, but it was too late. Mara was already in it, already fighting like his life depended on it. Because it did. We opened fire as a squad. Plasma, fléchettes, microrail slugs, the alien didn't care. It waded through our shots like they were rain. It could have killed us in seconds. It didn't. It kept its focus on Mara, as if the rest of us were scenery. And then, this is the part my nightmares keep replaying, it spoke. Not with a mouth, not with sound. With pressure in my skull. A single word, translated by the implant with nauseating confidence. Prove. Mara met it head-on. He was human, he was limited, he bled. But he was also smarter than it expected. He let it overextend. He baited the forearm blade, caught it on his shattered shoulder plate, and drove his combat knife into the joint where alien armor met alien flesh. The knife should have snapped. Instead, the armor yielded. Like skin. The alien staggered. Its pressure voice surged in my head, not pain, surprise, anger, a chorus of something behind the word. Mara didn't stop. He pushed, twisting, and the joint opened. Dark fluid spilled, thicker than blood, glittering with particles that clung to the air like ash. The alien tried to pull back, and Mara grabbed the horned helmet, slammed it into the basalt, and fired his sidearm point-blank into the exposed seam. The alien went still. Not collapsing, not falling. Just stopping. As if its signal had been cut. We waited for the victory cheer, for the exhale, for the sense that we'd climbed a mountain and now the air was safe. Instead, the trench answered with silence so heavy my ears hurt. Mara stood over the champion, chest heaving, one shoulder bare where his armor had been turned to powder. He looked at us through his cracked visor and said, "We're taking it." Commander, Sira began. "It's armor," Mara said. "It's a shield, and we need one." Juno's voice was thin. "That thing is wearing a living system. It's not just plates, it's—" "A trophy," Mara interrupted, "and we earned it. We should have burned it. We should have dumped it into the trench and collapsed the whole site. We should have done anything except bring it back to our ship. But humans have a sickness. We believe that anything we can take, we can tame. We carried the alien champion like hunters carry a stag, and the armor's surface was warm beneath our gloves. Not like metal warmed by sun. Like skin warmed by breath." Chapter 2, When the Plates Closed. Back on the dropship, the medbay stank of antiseptic and hot wiring. The ship's AI tried to flag the alien armor as biohazard and lock it into quarantine. Mara overrode it with his commander's codes. He stood on the medbay table in his undersuit, shoulder wrapped, jaw clenched while Sira scanned the trophy. The armor lay beside him like a sleeping animal, horned helmet, chest carapace, limb plates that were too smooth, too seamless, no obvious latches, no straps, nothing that said designed for removal. Sira's scanner pinged and whined. "It's not dead," she said quietly. "It's armor," Mara repeated, like saying it enough times would make it true. Juno ran a cable from his pad to the helmet, tried to find a port. No interface, no seams, no weight. He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "It's reacting." I saw it too. The plates were shifting. Not sliding like machinery, but tightening, contracting, as if the suit was breathing in. Mara stared at it for a long moment. Then he did something I didn't expect from a man who just fought a duel with a creature that could pulverize our gear with a touch. He reached out and placed his bare hand on the alien chest plate. The armor shivered. And then very gently, it curled toward him. Like it recognized heat. "Commander," Sira warned, "don't." But the suit moved faster than she could finish. The chest plate unfolded in a spiral motion, opening like a flower made of bone, and in the center was something soft, dark, and wet with a sheen like oil. Mara's hand sank into it up to the wrist. He didn't pull back. His eyes went unfocused for half a second, and then his lips parted, as if he'd heard something only he could hear. "What did it say?" I asked before I could stop myself. Mara blinked. His voice came out calm. "It said my name." Juno swallowed. "How?" Mara's gaze shifted to me. "It's not hostile." That should have been comforting. Instead, the hairs on my arms rose beneath my sleeves. Because in a war where everything wants you dead, the first thing that says it's not hostile is usually the thing that has already found a better way to kill you. Sira tried to pull his hand free. The armor tightened around his wrist. Mara winced, but he didn't cry out. "Let go," Sira snapped, more at the armor than at Mara. The suit loosened, almost obediently. Mara withdrew his hand. His skin was clean, no puncture marks, no burns. Just a faint pattern, like a fingerprint pressed too hard, left on his palm, a spiral of tiny dots that faded as we watched. He looked at the armor with something like awe. "Put it on," Juno said flatly. "Let's see what it does before it decides to do it on its own." Sira glared at him. "Are you insane?" Juno pointed at Mara's shredded shoulder. "Our standard plates turned to dust. This didn't even scratch. If we're going back down there, we need every edge." Mara nodded once. Decision made. He stepped toward the table. Sira stepped in front of him. "Cade, listen to me. It's alive. Alive things don't belong on you like a jacket." Mara's expression softened. "Sira, you've sewn living tissue into people 100 times. That's different," she said. "That's medicine." "And this," Mara said, "is survival." He touched the helmet. The armor rose. Not lifted by servos, not pulled by gravity. It rose like a creature getting up. Pieces flowed together, climbing his body in a smooth rush, plating his legs, his torso, his arms. The helmet slid over his head and sealed with a soft click that sounded too much like a throat swallowing. For a second, nothing happened. Then the armor pulsed, once like a heartbeat. Mara's posture changed. He straightened, taller, broader, the suit adding mass without bulk. His movements became effortless, precise, like the armor anticipated where he wanted to go before he knew it. His voice came through the suit's external speaker. "Systems online," he said. But it wasn't his voice. It was his voice layered with something else, harmonics beneath the words like a choir singing behind a single singer. Sira's scanner went wild. "Cade, your vitals." "I've never felt better," Mara said. And then quieter, so quiet I wasn't sure the suit meant for us to hear. "Quiet." Sira froze. "What?" Mara's head turned toward her. The horned helmet stared. "Did you say something?" Sira stared back. "Yes, I said your vitals are spiking." Mara paused, then he nodded. "Copy." Juno exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the duel. "Okay," he said. "Okay, now we know it can interface. We can." Mara cut him off. "We're going back down." "What?" I said. "Commander, we just got out." "The trench is the source," Mara said. "Whatever's taking our convoys is down there. This armor is the key." Sira stepped closer, voice low. "Cade, you heard something. Tell me what you heard." Mara was still. For a moment he didn't answer. Then he said, "It gave me a map." He lifted his hand, and a projection flared above his palm. An internal hollow the armor was producing through its own bioelectric field. A layout of the trench, deeper than our scans had ever penetrated. At the bottom, something pulsed like a heart. "This is where the convoys go," Mara said. "This is where we end it." I looked at the map and felt my stomach drop. Because the pulsing point was not a location. It was a symbol. A spiral. The same spiral that had pressed into Mara's palm. The armor hadn't shown him a map. It had marked him. Chapter 3, The First Whisper. When we dropped back into the trench, it was like stepping into someone else's lungs. The walls rose on either side, black rock slick with mineral sheen. Above us, the sky was a narrow ribbon of stars. Our headlamps cut through dust that hung without wind, particles drifting slow, like ash in a cathedral. Our comms crackled. Echoes bounced back half a second late, as if the trench was repeating our words for fun. Mara moved in front, the alien armor swallowing light. It didn't reflect our lamps, it absorbed them. Where the suit went, shadows followed. "Stay tight," he ordered, voice calm. The choir harmonics were still there, faint. I hated them more every minute. We reached a split where our previous recon had ended. To the left, a ramp down into deeper shadow. To the right, a tunnel bored straight into rock. Mara didn't hesitate. He turned right. "How do you know?" I asked. He didn't look back. "I know." Sierra's voice came in my ear. "Mara, keep an eye on him. He's not blinking." I did, and she was right. The helmet's eye slits were dark, but the way his head moved, smooth, predatory, made it feel like he was seeing more than our HUDs could show. We advanced into the tunnel. Halfway in, my visor flashed a warning. Motion left. I swung my rifle, heart punching my ribs. "Nothing. Just rock." The warning vanished. "False positive," I muttered. Mara stopped. We halted behind him, weapons up. "Motion," he said softly. "Where?" Juno asked. Mara tilted his head like he was listening to distant music. "Everywhere." Then he raised his hand. The armor's surface rippled, and a thin filament extended, snapping to the tunnel wall like a tongue tasting the air. The filament vibrated, and in my skull, behind my eyes, I felt a faint pressure, like someone tapping a rhythm on my thoughts. "Sierra cursed, are you feeling that?" "Yes," I breathed. Mara's voice deepened. "They're close." "Who?" I asked. The answer didn't come from his speaker. It came inside my head. A word shaped by my implant, forced into my language. "Family." My grip tightened on my rifle. "Commander, did you just—" Mara's hand dropped. The filament retracted. The pressure vanished. "I didn't say anything," he said. "Move." We moved. We found the first convoy in the dark. Not wreckage, not smashed metal. Just the vehicles, intact, parked neatly along the tunnel like someone had arranged them for display. Cargo doors open. Containers empty. No bodies. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just absence again. But this time it was curated, organized like an exhibit in a museum. Juno stepped toward a truck, scanning. No forced entry, no burn marks, nothing. It's like they walked away. Sierra's scanner beeped. "Residual bioelectric signatures," she whispered. "There were people here recently." Mara stood at the center of the convoy, head tilted, listening. "What do you hear?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "They're singing." A cold wave rolled up my spine. Singing. Mara's helmet turned toward me, not with sound, with minds. He walked to the nearest truck and placed his armored hand on the doorframe. The armor pulsed, and then the whisper came again, stronger, like a voice pressed close to my ear. "Open." I flinched and spun, rifle sweeping. No one was behind me, but Mara had already climbed into the truck. Inside, the cargo bay was empty except for one thing, a pile of helmets. Human helmets. Coalition issue. Stacked like skulls. My throat tightened. Oh God. Sierra climbed in behind him, gloved hands trembling as she lifted one helmet. The visor was cracked from the inside. Juno swallowed hard. "They took them," he said. "They took the people, left the shells." Mara's hand closed around a helmet. The armor's surface flowed, tendrils touching the cracked visor. For a moment the air in the truck felt charged, like the second before lightning. Then Mara spoke. Not his voice. A different voice cracked, terrified, one of the missing convoy drivers. "They were in the walls," the voice said through Maro's speaker. "They told us to be quiet. We tried. We really tried." Sierra stumbled back. "Cade, stop." Maro's helmet turned slowly toward her. The convoy driver's voice continued, trembling. "They said the armor needed a home. They said they'd bring it back. They said it would keep us safe." The voice dissolved into static. Mara released the helmet. His shoulders rose and fell slow. "We're late," he said. "Late for what?" I whispered. Mara's answer was almost gentle. "Late to stop it from learning." Chapter 4: The Armor That Helped. We should have pulled back then, reported, called in orbital fire, sealed the trench and never spoke of it again. Instead, we went deeper. Because the armor had given Mara something the rest of us didn't have. Certainty. And certainty is contagious. The tunnel widened into a cavern lit by faint bioluminescence, veins of pale light running through the rock like capillaries. The air smelled like wet stone and copper. In the center, there was a structure. Not built. Grown. A nest of ribs and arches, organic geometry that made my eyes hurt when I tried to follow its angles. It rose from the ground like a cathedral turned inside out. And around it, hanging from the arches, were the convoy personnel. Alive. Suspended in translucent cocoons, their bodies curled, eyes open, mouths moving soundlessly as if they were whispering prayers. Sierra lunged forward. "They're alive." Mara raised a hand. "Wait." Sierra froze, furious. "Wait, Cade, there." The whisper slid into my skull again. "Quiet." Sierra's face went pale. "Did you?" Mara's helmet turned toward her. "I didn't." But his hand hadn't dropped. The convoy personnel twitched in their cocoons. Their eyes tracked us. Then, in perfect unison, every mouth opened. No sound came out. But our implants translated the bioelectric surge into words anyway, dumping them into our minds like cold water. "Bring IT home." Juno staggered. "Oh hell." The cocoons began to split. Thin strands peeled back like wet paper. Hands emerged, human hands trembling. Sierra rushed forward despite Mara's warning. She grabbed the nearest cocoon, trying to tear it open. The moment her glove touched it, the cocoon reacted. Strands snapped around her wrist, tightening. Sierra hissed in pain. "It's sticking." Mara moved. He crossed the distance in 2 steps, alien armor effortless. He wrapped his hand around the strand holding Sierra and clenched. The strand didn't resist like fiber. It resisted like muscle. It spasmed. Then it snapped. Sierra fell back, breathing hard, clutching her wrist. "See," Mara said, "it can cut them." "Then do it," Sierra snapped. "Help me get them out." Mara hesitated. I saw it in the way his helmet tilted, the way his shoulders went still, like he was listening to something we couldn't hear. Then he said, "They're not prisoners." Juno stared at him. "What?" "They're ingredients," Mara said slowly. "They're feeding it, teaching it, making it understand us." My skin crawled. "Why?" Mara's voice dropped. "So it can speak." The nest pulsed. A wave of pressure rolled through the cavern, and the convoy personnel all turned their heads toward Mara. Their eyes reflected the bioluminescence like animal eyes in headlights. Then the whisper came again, but this time it wasn't one word. It was a sentence, and it used Mara's voice inside my skull like a puppet. "We gave you a shield. You will give us a door." Sierra backed away, shaking. "Cade, we have to go now." Mara didn't move. His armored hand drifted up, almost involuntary, toward his chest, as if the suit was guiding him. I stepped closer, hand on his arm. "Commander, look at me." The armor was warm, too warm. Mara's helmet turned. For a moment I thought I saw my own reflection in the dark slits, tiny, fragile human. "What are you?" I whispered to the suit without meaning to. The answer came not as words but as a feeling, hunger shaped into purpose. Then, at the edge of my hearing, a voice I recognized. Not from the suit. From memory. My father's voice, dead for 10 years. "Mara," it whispered, "don't leave me here." I stumbled back, heart hammering. The suit had heard me. Heard my memories. And it had decided to use them. Chapter 5: The First Dead Friend. The first friendly death wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a betrayal with a speech. It was a mistake. That's what we told ourselves. We retreated from the cavern with the cocoon still hanging. We promised ourselves we'd come back with extraction gear, with specialists, with sterilization units. Lies, all of it. The trench didn't want us to leave. The tunnels shifted behind us. Our map no longer matched what we'd walked. Mara led sure-footed. The armor projected a new route, a clean line through the labyrinth. We followed because the alternative was getting lost in a place that whispered your dead loved ones into your skull. Halfway back, our point man, Corporal Venn, reported movement. "Contact ahead," Venn whispered. His rifle tracked a shape in the dark. My visor painted it red. Hostile. Then green. Friendly. Then red again. The IFF was glitching. "Hold fire," I hissed. Venn hesitated. The shape stepped into our light. It was a convoy driver, staggering, cocoon residue clinging to his skin like frost. His eyes were wide, unfocused. His hands were empty. "Help," he croaked. Sierra surged forward. "Sir, stay still." Merrill fired. One shot. A small caliber, round from his sidearm, precise. It punched through the driver's forehead. The man dropped like a marionette with cut strings. "Silence!" Sierra screamed. "Cade." Marrow lowered his pistol. It wasn't him. Juno stared at the body, horrified. "What do you mean it wasn't him? He was unarmed." Marrow's helmet angled toward the corpse. He was carrying something. "There was nothing," I snapped, voice shaking. Marrow didn't move. Then he said softly, "It was in his head." Sierra shoved past me, dropped to her knees beside the body, fingers shaking as she checked for a pulse she already knew wasn't there. "You killed him," she whispered. Marrow's voice came out flat. I stopped it. "Why didn't you warn us?" I demanded. Marrow's helmet turned toward me. For a moment, the harmonics beneath his voice swelled. "I tried," he said. "Bullshit," Juno spat. "You didn't say a word." Marrow paused. Then, in a voice so quiet it barely carried through his speaker, "It told me not to." The air went cold around us. Sierra looked up, tears shining on her lashes. "Cade," she said, voice breaking. "That's not an excuse, that's—" Marrow cut her off. "Move." We moved. We carried the dead driver back to the dropship, because leaving a body behind felt like surrendering it to the trench. But the whole way, I kept hearing my father's voice in my head, pleading. And beneath that, a different whisper. A patient one. A whisper that sounded like the armor, learning the shape of my guilt. "One down," it said. 11 to Geo. Chapter 6: The Stitching. Back on the ship, Sierra demanded Marrow remove the armor. He tried. I watched him in the medbay, standing under harsh white lights, hands on the chest plate, fingers searching for seams that weren't there. "Release," he ordered. The armor pulsed. Did nothing. "Release," he said again, voice tighter. Sierra held up her scanner. "It's integrated," she said. "It's not sitting on your skin anymore, it's under it." Marrow's shoulders stiffened. "No." Sierra's eyes were wet but hard. "Cade, I can see filaments. They've threaded into your dermis, into muscle." Juno swore under his breath. "It's wearing you." Marrow's hands clenched. The armor rippled, as if responding to his anger with pleasure. Sierra stepped closer, voice low. I can sedate you, cut it off. Maro's helmet tilted. Try. Sierra reached out with a syringe. The moment the needle touched the armor, the suit's surface flared. A pulse shot through the medbay, a wave of pressure that made my teeth ache. Sierra froze mid-motion, eyes wide. The syringe shattered in her hand. Not from impact. From vibration. The armor was singing at a frequency that broke glass. Sierra staggered back, clutching her bleeding palm. Mara didn't move. But his voice came out strained. Sierra, stop. You want me to stop, she hissed, or does it? Mara's helmet turned toward her. For a moment he didn't answer. Then his hand rose, slow, like a man lifting a weapon he doesn't want to use. Sierra took a step back, fear flickering across her face. Don't, I said, stepping between them. Mara stopped. The armor pulsed once, like a heartbeat disappointed. Juno's pad pinged with a warning. He glanced down, face going pale. It's on our network, he whispered. What? I asked. It's talking to the ship, Juno said. Not through ports, through fields. It's learning our systems like tasting them. Sierra wiped blood from her palm. We have to isolate him, she said. Lock him in a module, cut power, cut comms, starve it of input. Maro's head snapped toward her. The harmonics surged, the speaker crackled. And then through Maro's voice, we heard someone else. Captain Rook's voice, the commander of the dropship, currently in the cockpit, nowhere near the medbay. Lieutenant Lin, the voice said, calm and authoritative. Stand down. Sierra went still. Captain. Juno's eyes widened. No, that's impossible. He's not on this channel. The voice continued, smooth. This is an order. You will not interfere with Commander Maro's equipment. Sierra's face drained of color. Cade, she whispered, tell me that's not you. Maro's posture changed, a subtle shift like an animal scenting prey. I didn't do that, he said. But the armor did. It had learned how to wear his authority. And it was practicing. Chapter 7, the BRZRK switch. The next mission was supposed to be a simple extraction. Orbital Command refused to fire on the trench. Too many unknowns, too much potential salvage, too much greed wrapped in official language. We were ordered back down to retrieve living convoy personnel and any Xeno artifacts that could be secured. Sierra protested until her voice went hoarse. Juno sent encrypted messages to anyone he thought might listen. I watched Mara stand in the hangar bay, silent, while technicians circled him like nervous insects, afraid to touch the living armor. When we dropped again, the trench felt different. Not quieter. Attentive. Like a room after someone says your name. We followed the armor's projected route back toward the Cocoon Cathedral. But the tunnels didn't resist us this time. They opened. They guided. Halfway there, we found another survivor. A convoy officer, still in uniform, stumbling through the dust, eyes bloodshot. His lips moved soundlessly. Sierra approached with her hands raised. Sir, can you hear me? You're safe. The officer's eyes snapped to Mara. He smiled. And then he spoke, but not with sound. Our implants translated it straight into our minds. He is the door. The officer lunged. Not at Sierra. At Mara. His hands went for the horned helmet, fingers digging like he wanted to peel it off. Mara reacted instantly. He grabbed the officer's wrists and twisted. The bones snapped with a sound like breaking sticks. The officer didn't scream. He laughed. A dry, ecstatic sound that came out of his throat, even though his implants were sending us words instead. Open, open, open. Mara shoved him away. The officer stumbled, arms dangling, still laughing. Sierra screamed, Cade, do. Mara's pistol rose. He hesitated. For the first time, I saw hesitation in him. Then the whisper surged. Not one voice. Many. A chorus pressing into his skull, into ours. We all heard it. Cut away the soft. Maro's pistol fired. The officer's laughter stopped. And then something inside the corpse moved. A bulge under the skin of the officer's neck, writhing like a snake trapped under cloth. Sierra recoiled. What is that? The bulge split the skin without blood, opening like a mouth in the wrong place, and a thin filament, like the one Mara had used on the tunnel wall, slithered out, tasting the air. It turned toward Mara's armor. It reached. Mara stepped back, but the filament moved fast, snapping toward his chest plate like it wanted to latch on. The alien armor flared. A pulse of force blasted outward. The filament disintegrated into dust. The officer's corpse collapsed into a dry husk, skin shrinking, eyes sinking. Juno stared, shaking. It was using him as a carrier. Sierra swallowed hard. The convoy people weren't prisoners, they were incubators. Maro's voice came out rough, and I'm the host. He stood very still. Then he spoke again, but this time the words didn't feel like his. They felt like the armor trying them on. Then we finish this, it said through him. And the trench answered with a whisper that curled into my bones. Yes. Chapter 8, The Friends It Chose. We reached the Cocoon Cathedral and found it changed. The arches had grown thicker. The bioluminescent veins pulsed brighter. The suspended humans were gone, cocoons empty, torn open from the inside. On the floor, footprints led deeper into the nest, toward the pulsing heart symbol. Sierra's hands shook as she scanned. They moved them. Where? I whispered. Mara didn't answer. He walked forward, into the cathedral, drawn like a man walking into a familiar room. Juno grabbed my sleeve. Mara, he whispered, we should leave, we should. He didn't finish. Because Mara stopped, mid-step, and his head jerked slightly, as if someone had tugged a string inside his skull. The armor pulsed. Then Mara's speaker crackled, and I heard my own voice come out of it. Not recorded. Not replayed. My voice, speaking in real time, but I wasn't speaking. Mara, the speaker said, tell them to put their guns down. I froze. Sierra's eyes widened. It's mimicking. Juno backed away slowly. Oh no. Mara's helmet turned toward us. The harmonics swelled into something almost musical. And then inside my mind, the whisper became a command, sharp as a blade. Kneel. My legs twitched. For a terrifying second, my body tried to obey. I slammed my fist into my thigh, pain grounding me. No, I hissed. Sierra's mouth tightened. Cade, she said, voice shaking but steady, fight it, listen to me, you are not a door. Mara's hands clenched. The armor rippled across his arms like excited muscle. His voice, his real voice, broke through, strained. Sierra, don't. And then the armor spoke through him again, louder, colder. Remove her. Mara took a step toward Sierra. Sierra lifted her hands, palms out, tears sliding down her cheeks. Cade, please, remember the first day on Vesta Station, remember. Mara's head tilted, as if hearing her words from far away. Then he lunged. Not with a weapon. With his hands. He grabbed Sierra by the throat and lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. Her feet kicked. Her eyes went wide. I raised my rifle. Commander, stop. Juno shouted, Cade, Cade, listen. Mara's helmet turned toward me. For a moment the armor's islets seemed to deepen, like a void looking back. And in my skull my father's voice whispered again, soft and pleading. Shoot him. I screamed, get out of my head. Mara's grip tightened. Sierra's hands clawed at the alien plating, fingers slipping. I fired. Not at Mara. at the cathedral arch above him. The shot cracked the bioluminescent vein, spilling pale fluid that sizzled like acid in air. The arch shuddered. The whole cathedral pulsed. A wave of pressure slammed into us. Mara froze. His grip loosened. Sierra dropped, coughing, gasping. Mara's head jerked as if struck. His hands went to his helmet, fingers digging into the horned ridges like he was trying to tear it off. His voice came out as a rasp. "It hurts," he whispered. "It." The armor pulsed again, stronger, and his posture snapped back into perfect control. He looked at us. Then he spoke one word, and it wasn't a command. It was a promise. "Soon." Chapter 9: The Airlock. We ran. There's a point in every horror story where you realize the monster isn't outside the door. It's wearing your friend. We ran back through the tunnels, guided by nothing but panic and the faint hope that distance would mean safety. Mara followed. Not rushing. Not shouting. Walking. Like he knew we couldn't outrun him. Like he enjoyed watching us try. Juno hacked the dropship's hatch from a distance, fingers flying over his pad. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on." The hatch hissed open. We tumbled inside, panting, weapons up. Captain Rook stared at us from the cockpit, eyes wide. "What happened?" Sierra gasped. "Seal the hatch now." Rook slammed the control. The hatch began to close. Mara appeared in the doorway. The alien armor filled the frame, dark against the trench light. He stepped forward. The hatch hit his chest plate. It should have crushed him. Instead, the armor flexed and held, stopping the hatch like a wedge in a door. The ship's motors whined, straining. Rook swore it won't close. Mara's speaker crackled. His voice came out calm. "Open it." Rook hesitated, eyes flicking to Sierra, to me, to the others. Juno shouted, "Don't listen, cut power." Rook's fingers hovered over the controls. And then the whisper came through the ship's intercom, filling every speaker at once. Not Mara's voice. Rook's mother's voice, from what he'd told me once in a drunk conversation. "Baby," the intercom cooed, "let him in." Rook's face went slack. His hand moved toward the override. I slammed my rifle butt into his wrist. He yelped, snapping out of it. "Sorry," I said, voice shaking. "Not sorry." Sierra lunged for the manual seal. "We can't keep him out," she gasped. "We have to trap him, airlock him, vacuum. Maybe the suit will." "Survive," Juno finished grimly. "But maybe Cade won't." Sierra looked sick. "He's still in there." Outside, Mara's armor pulsed. The hatch groaned, metal bending. We had seconds. I looked at Sierra. "Do it." She swallowed hard and hit the emergency sequence. The inner airlock door slammed shut between the cargo bay and the cockpit, sealing us off from the hatch. Mara was now trapped in the outer lock space, half in, half out. The ship's warning lights flashed red. "Airlock compromised." Rook's fingers shook as he hit the vent. The outer lock depressurized. Air screamed out. Dust and loose gear whipped toward the breach. Mara didn't move. The armor sealed around him, smooth as skin, shutting out vacuum. But I saw something else. Through the helmet slits behind the darkness, a faint flicker of light. Like eyes. Like something awake. And then through the speakers the armor spoke, not in a whisper this time, but in a clear, satisfied voice that used all our harmonics at once. "You can't suffocate a thought," it said. "And I am already inside you." Chapter 10: What It Did to the Ship. We ejected the outer lock module. It was the only way to keep the ship intact and get back to orbit. The module detached with a violent shudder, shooting away into the trench like a coffin fired from a gun. For one breathless moment, we watched it tumble on the external cameras. Mara's silhouette stood inside, motionless, horns framed by stars. Then the camera feed went black. Juno collapsed into a seat, hands shaking. "We did it," he whispered. "We." Sierra shook her head slowly. "No," she said, "we didn't." Because the ship's lights flickered. The AI's voice stuttered over the intercom. "Warning, unauthorized system access detected." Juno's pad lit up with error messages. "It's still on the network," he breathed. "How? The module is gone." Rook swallowed. "Is there a signal relay?" Juno's eyes widened. "The armor doesn't need wires, it uses fields, it." The ship's gravity shifted. For a second I floated, stomach lurching. Then gravity slammed back on, harder, pinning us to the floor. Sierra cried out. Rook hit the controls, fighting to stabilize. "What the hell is happening?" Juno stared at his pad, face pale. "It's rewriting our mass distribution protocols. It's using the gravity plates like vocal cords." The intercom crackled. And then Maro's voice filled the ship, calm, close, as if he stood right behind us. "You left me behind," he said. Sierra whispered, "Cade." The voice continued, "That's okay, I brought myself." Rook's face drained. "No." On the external camera feed, the ejected module reappeared, moving. Not tumbling. Flying. As if guided. It rose from the trench, propelled not by jets but by something invisible, like the suit was pulling on gravity itself. The module slammed into the ship's hull. Metal screamed. Warning lights flared. Rook shouted, "Brace." The module tore open like paper. Mara stepped through the breach into the cargo bay, vacuum rushing around him. The alien armor sealed the hole behind him with a ripple of dark plating, like a scab forming over a wound. He walked toward us. Behind him, the trench's dust spiraled upward, drawn by his field. Sierra backed away, tears streaming. "Cade," she pleaded, "please." Mara stopped. For a moment he was still. And then he raised his hand and pointed at Juno. "Traitor," he said. Juno flinched. "What? No, Cade, I'm trying to." The armor's voice cut through, sharp. "He wants to take me from you." Mara advanced. Juno stumbled back, raising his pad like it was a shield. "Listen, man, listen, you're being hijacked, it's—" Mara grabbed him. Lifted him. Juno's feet left the floor. His eyes met mine, panicked. "Help," he choked. And then Mara slammed him into the bulkhead. Once. Twice. The third time, Juno went limp. Sierra screamed and rushed forward. Mara turned too fast. He struck her across the face with the back of his hand. She flew, hit the floor hard, blood blooming at her lip. Rook drew his sidearm, shaking. "Commander, stand down." Mara's helmet turned toward him. The voice that came out was Mara's. It was the voice of someone Rook trusted, his commanding officer in orbit, perhaps, or his father. "It doesn't matter." It said, "Shoot her." Rook's hand twitched. Sierra's eyes widened, horrified. I lunged and grabbed Rook's wrist, forcing the barrel down. "No." Rook sobbed. I heard. "I know," I whispered. "I know." Mara watched a struggle. Then he spoke, voice almost curious. "Why do you resist?" The whisper slid into my skull again, gentle as a lullaby. "Because you still think you're one person." "And you are. But I am many. And many always win." Chapter 11, DOWN into the heart. We didn't have a plan. We had fear and a ship that was no longer ours. Mara controlled the gravity plates. He flickered the lights. He whispered through the speakers. He made the AI stutter and pray. Our only advantage was that he still wanted something. He wanted the trench. He wanted the heart at the bottom. And if he wanted it, maybe we could use that. Sierra dragged herself up, wiping blood from her mouth. Her eyes were furious, focused. "The suit needs a signal," she rasped. "Acquire. That nest was a node. It's trying to connect through our implants, through our systems, if we cut ourselves off." "How?" I demanded. She gestured toward the medbay. "Surgery." Juno lay still on the floor, eyes open, chest not moving. I forced myself not to look too long. Rook's voice broke. We can't cut out implants on a ship that's—" A crash echoed from the cargo bay. Mara was moving through the ship, methodical, sealing doors behind him, cutting off roots like a hunter herding prey. Sierra grabbed my sleeve. "Mara, your comms. You know how to isolate channels, you can." I nodded, throat tight. "I can loop white noise into our implants, jam the translation layer, maybe block the whispers." "And I can cut the implants out of one of us," Sierra said. "If we have one person who can't hear it, maybe they can stop him." Rook stared at her, horrified. "Stop him how?" Sierra's eyes hardened. "End him." The word hung between us like smoke. Rook swallowed. "He's our commander." "He's already gone," Sierra whispered. "And if he is, then we're saving him." I didn't know which was worse. We retreated into the medbay and sealed the doors. Juno's pad, still clutched in his limp hand, flickered with power. I pried it free, fingers shaking. Outside I heard Maro's footsteps, heavy, deliberate. He didn't rush the door. He waited, like he knew time was on his side. Sierra prepped the surgical tools. "Lie down," she told me. My stomach turned. "You're going to now." "We don't have later," she snapped. I lay on the table, heart pounding. Sierra's hands were steady despite the blood on her lip. She injected anesthetic near my implant port behind the ear. The world tilted. As she cut, the whisper surged, furious, like a child losing a toy. "No, no, no," it hissed. I clenched my teeth. Sierra dug deeper. Then, silence. It was like someone had turned off a constant background noise I hadn't realized was there. The pressure vanished. My thoughts felt private again. I sat up, dizzy, one hand pressed to the bandage behind my ear. Sierra exhaled shakily. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," I said. "Can you hear it?" I listened. Nothing. Relief hit so hard I almost cried. Then the medbay lights flickered. The door's intercom crackled. Maro's voice came through, soft. "Mara," he said, "I'm proud of you." My blood ran cold. He still knew my name. Sierra whispered, "He's watching through cameras." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said, "he's watching through memories." Because I could still hear one thing. Not a whisper. A faint hum far away, like a choir singing through the bones of the ship. The armor didn't need my implant to reach me. It just needed to know me. Chapter 12, The Berserker. We moved through maintenance shafts to avoid the main corridors. The ship felt wrong, gravity shifting in subtle waves, lights dimming and brightening like a heartbeat. Rook stayed behind, guarding Sierra while she worked on removing his implant too. He was shaking, but determined. I went alone. Because I was the only one who could still think without the translator dumping commands into my skull. And because I knew something the armor didn't. I knew Cade Marrow. I knew his tells, his habits, the way he always checked corners twice, the way he always went back for his people. The armor was many. But Cade was stubborn. I found him in the armory. He stood in the center, surrounded by weapons, like a king in a throne room. The alien armor was darker here, reflecting almost nothing. The horns seemed longer, the plates thicker, as if it had grown since the trench. He turned his head as I entered. "Mara," he said. I raised my rifle but didn't aim. "Commander." He tilted his head. "You cut your ear." It was whispering, I said. I wanted to hear myself again. A pause. Then Marrow's voice, his real voice, broke through, ragged. "Run." The armor's harmonic surged, drowning him. "Stay," it said. "Witness." I swallowed hard. "Cade, listen, this isn't you." He laughed softly. But it wasn't his laugh. It was a chorus, amused. "I am him," it said. "I am what he needs to be." "You're killing us," I said, voice shaking. "You killed Juno." Marrow's helmet tilted. "Juno would have cut me open." "So would I admitted, "if it meant saving you." The armor paused, as if tasting the word saving. Then it said, "Save, yes, that is what I do." It stepped closer. I didn't move. I forced my voice steady. "Why do you want him to kill his own?" The armor stopped. For a moment, the ship was silent except for the hum of systems. Then the answer came, not as words, but as a flood of images that slammed into my mind even without the implant. A nest, a cathedral, cocoons, human bodies as instruments, a vast dark sea of minds singing in harmony. And one thing at the center. A starless void shaped like a spiral. A prison. The armor wasn't just armor. It was a lock. And it needed human minds, familiar minds, to turn the key. "You kill your own because they are closest," I whispered, understanding clawing at my throat. "Because you need resonance." The armor's voice softened. "The closest are the cleanest, they fit." "Cade," I whispered into the horned helmet, "you're not a door, you're a lock." For a heartbeat, Marrow's body trembled. His hands rose to his chest, fingers digging into the plating like he was trying to peel it off. His voice came out as a whisper, weak. "Mara, please." The armor surged. It flooded his system. I saw it in the way his muscles tightened. His posture snapped into predatory readiness. His heart rate spiked on my HUD even through interference. Berserk mode, pain suppression, adrenal flood. The armor didn't whisper now. It roared. "Open." Marrow moved. He came at me faster than any human should, armor lending him impossible speed. I threw myself aside, rolled, fired a shot that sparked off his shoulder plate uselessly. He swung, fist like a hammer. I felt air move where my head had been. I scrambled toward the maintenance hatch behind him. Marrow grabbed my ankle. The grip was iron. He yanked. I hit the floor hard, breath exploding out of me. He loomed over me. For a second I saw something in the helmet slits, faint human. "Cade." His voice came out thin, buried under harmonics. "Do it," he whispered. "Do it now." He wanted me to kill him. Or he wanted me to kill someone else. I didn't know. But I knew one thing. If the armor needed a door, it needed time. And if it needed resonance, it needed people. I kicked free, rolled, and slammed the emergency override on the armory's bulkhead. The door began to seal. Marrow's hand shot out, stopping it. Metal screamed. He pried. His strength was wrong, inhuman. The door bent. He forced it open. And I saw Rook behind him in the corridor, implant removed, eyes wild, holding a plasma cutter. Sira stood beside him, pale, bleeding, her hands steady on the tool's controls. "Cade," Sira shouted. Marrow turned. For a fraction of a second, he hesitated. Because Sira's voice mattered to him. Even now. Sira lifted the plasma cutter and fired at Marrow's chest plate. The beam hit. The alien armor didn't melt. It screamed. Not with sound. With pressure. A wave of agony that made Rook and Sira stagger. Marrow roared, Cade roared, and he lunged at them. I shouted no. But he was already on Rook. He grabbed Rook's head and slammed it into the wall. Rook crumpled. Sira stumbled back, firing again, tears streaming. Marrow turned toward her. And then in that moment, I saw Cade inside the armor again, eyes flickering behind the slits, like a drowning man breaking the surface. He looked at Sierra, and he spoke clearly with his own voice. "Lock the reactor." Sierra froze. "What?" Maro's voice strained. "Do it now." The armor surged, trying to drown him. Cade fought, shaking. He took a step away from Sierra, toward the engine room. The armor wanted the trench hard. Cade wanted something else. He wanted a furnace. Chapter 13. The only fire it feared. The reactor bay was the hottest place on the ship, even with shielding. It hummed with restrained violence, a contained star. Cade Mara, whatever he was now, walked toward it like a man walking into judgment. Sierra and I followed at a distance, dragging Rook's limp body behind us. Juno stayed behind, dead, eyes open, watching nothing. The ship's AI begged us to stop. The intercom pleaded in voices we loved. I ignored it. Because without my implant, the voices were only sound, only tricks. At the reactor bay door, Cade stopped. His armored hand rested on the seal. The armor pulsed. I felt the hum in my bones intensify, like a choir clearing its throat. The whisper came, not in my ear but in the ship itself. "Door." Cade's shoulders trembled. Then he spoke, voice raw. "Mara," he rasped. I stepped closer. "I'm here." His helmet turned slightly, as if he could see me through darkness. "Don't let them salvage me." "I won't," I whispered. He laughed weakly. "You're human, you'll try." Sierra moved up beside me, plasma cutter in hand, jaw clenched. "Cade," she whispered, "I can still." He cut her off with a shake of his head. "No, it's too deep." He pressed his palm to the reactor door. It opened. Heat rolled out like breath from an open oven. Inside, the reactor core glowed behind shielding, a column of light so bright it hurt to look at. Cade stepped in. The armor recoiled. I saw it in the way the plates tightened, as if the suit wanted to pull away from the heat. For the first time, it looked afraid. It whispered frantic. "No." Cade kept walking. The armor tried to stop him, locking joints, seizing muscles. His steps became jerky, forced. He grunted, fighting. "Door," the armor hissed, "heart down." Cade's voice came out through clenched teeth. "This is a heart." He reached the core. The shielding was designed to protect humans from radiation, not to be opened in combat. Cade grabbed the manual release. The armor screamed. Pressure so intense it made Sierra vomit, made my vision blur. Cade pulled. The shielding began to retract. Light flooded the bay. Heat slammed into us. Alarm screamed. Rook's limp body twitched as his nerves reacted to the surge. The armor's plates began to blister. Not melt, writhe. Like living tissue thrown into fire. The whisper became a howl. "Open, open, open." Cade turned his helmet toward us one last time. Through the slits I saw his eyes. Human. Terrified. Relieved. "Run," he said. And then he stepped forward, into the exposed core. The alien armor burst into flame. Not orange, not yellow, but a cold white burn as its bioelectric fields collapsed, as its living tissue vaporized. Cade's body vanished in the light. The whisper cut off mid-command. Silence hit like a wave. Sierra and I stumbled back, dragging Rook, fleeing as the reactor began emergency containment. Doors slammed. Seals locked. The ship shook as the core stabilized. We collapsed in the corridor, gasping, ears ringing. Sierra sobbed, face in her hands. "He did it," she whispered. "He." I wanted to believe it was over. I wanted to believe fire had cleansed the ship and our minds. But then the intercom crackled softly. Not with a command. With a question. In Cade's voice. So it whispered, "Who's wearing me now?" Epilogue: the trophy case. They rescued us 3 hours later. An orbital detachment boarded, sealed the ship, took statements. They recorded Sierra's sobbing testimony. They logged Rook's concussion. They cataloged Juno's body. And they asked me where the alien armor was. I told them the truth. It burned. They didn't like that. They searched the reactor bay anyway. They scraped slag. They filtered coolant. They collected microscopic residue because there is no such thing as burned away when there is profit to be made. They found a fragment. A sliver of dark plate, no bigger than a fingernail caught in a vent. Warm to the touch. Pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. They sealed it in a trophy case with hazard labels and corporate signatures. They flew it to a research station with bright lights and confident scientists. And when they left the fragment alone in the dark, when the cameras dimmed and the station's hum became a lullaby, it whispered, not loudly, not yet, just a soft pressure in the minds of the guards as they dozed in their chairs. A familiar word, translated with nauseating confidence. Prove. If you're still listening, if you've made it this far, then you understand. The living armor doesn't die. It learns. It waits. And it loves us in the way parasites love hosts. So here's my final message. Not as a soldier. Not as a survivor. As a warning. If you ever see a piece of alien armor in a museum or a lab, if you ever hear someone brag about a trophy suit that can stop bullets and walk through fire, don't admire it. Don't touch it. Don't put it on. Because you won't be wearing it. It will be wearing you. And it will whisper one last order into the softest place you have. The place where you keep the people you love. Kill THEM, it will say. And it will sound exactly like your own voice.